is here back with another video, and today I'm going to be using the shadow box card dies along with the Frosty Fairy Friends stamp set to create a little box card today. And I'm also going to be using the brand new Prisma glitter to sort of create a shaker card at the front of this shadow box. I just thought that would be a really fun idea to do. So I'm first going to go ahead and assemble my box together before I do anything else. So I've just gone ahead and cut all of my dies apart, and now I'm just going to be using the little hills there and also the main frame for the box. For the paper I'm going to cut my box out of, I'm going to be using the Watercolor Wishes 6x6 paper pad, and you can get one card out of one piece of this paper since the die is less than 3 inches wide. So it works out perfectly, and it's also not more than 6 inches long, so again it works out great. So I'm just pulling out a piece of light blue cardstock, and I sort of just wanted it to be the lightest blue in the pack, just because I felt like that would match better with what I was sort of trying to achieve. And I'm just going to cut this out twice. So I just cut it out once normally with this main frame die, and then one of the pieces I'm going to die cut a little opening out of the front of. So I'm just using the rectangle piece that comes in the die set as well to cut out the front of that out of one of the pieces. Now I'm going to go ahead and sort of assemble like my shaker piece. It's not really a shaker piece, more just like an additional layer, because I wanted there to be some sparkly snow. So I decided to sort of create a flat shaker card at the front of this box. So I've just added some Scor-tape around the perimeter of that front piece, and then I've just added a piece of acetate on top. Then I've added some more Scor-tape around the edges also, and now I'm going to pour some Prisma glitter in. So this is a new product from Lawnfawn. I'm so happy that they are introducing glitters and embossing powders. It's just really amazing, and this glitter is so super fine and gorgeous. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a spoon and pour in just a little bit of glitter. I don't want there to be too much, because I don't want it to completely coat the front of this box, since I want to be able to see through it, but I sort of just want there to be like an additional snowy layer, I guess, at the bottom. So I'm just using a tiny little bit of glitter. I probably used about 1/4 teaspoon here, and I just added it into the bottom of this like shaker panel piece here. And also, because this is acetate, this is going to be like super staticky, but if you just whack it like a few times down on like your counter or whatever, it's going to like all settle down to the bottom. It just sort of leaves some speckles in the top of it, and I just think it looks really gorgeous. So now that I've filled that piece in with glitter, I've just removed the tape and then added another piece of acetate on top, and then this is how it's going to look. It's all going to be sparkly and snowy and fun, and you can see here when I tap it down, it all sort of settles at the bottom, and it looks really cool. So that's the basic piece for the box done, and now I'm going to go ahead and start assembling it together. So I've gone ahead and cut out 3 of these Snowy Hill pieces that come in the die set from white cardstock. Then I've just folded the pieces at the score lines and added on another piece of Scor-tape. And now I'm just adhering one side to the box first. And so this is just easier because if you adhere these sides first, then you can let them lined up perfectly, and it's a lot easier to adhere your box down flat. So this is sort of why I'm adhering these down just one-sided first. So I'm also doing them sort of staggered because I want there to be different heights. So it doesn't really matter if they're not all lined up on the bottom. I just really want there to be different heights. So like the fairies that I adhere inside the box can be at different heights, and so that's why I decided to do it this way. So here they are, all pieces adhered to just one side for now. And now I'm going to work on the background piece for this shadow box. So I decided to cut another piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to use some Salty Ocean and some Evergreen Bow Distress ink and just ink blend onto this piece. I was going to use Cracked Pistachio, but I didn't feel the need to ink blend the bottom of the piece, so I didn't feel the need to use 3 colours since 2 colours worked perfectly here. And I'm just ink blending both of these 2 colours onto this piece, just really sort of messily, I think this is on watercolor paper, so I got a really good blend. And yeah, that's basically all I'm going to do for the background. I'm just going to do a bit of water splotch effect and just sprinkle on a little bit of water onto the background just to give it a little bit of interest, even though in the end you're really not going to see this all too much. I just really wanted there to be some color back there. So now I've gone ahead and dried that with a heat tool. I'm just going to add some adhesive onto the back and then adhere this into my little box here. And then I'm just going to now adhere the rest of the box together. So I'm just laying all of these pieces down flat exactly where I want them to be adhered, and then I'm going to remove all three backers on these hill pieces here, and then I'm going to fold the bottom of the box up onto there and press down, and this is just going to ensure that all of those pieces are going to lay flat and not sort of make the box all wonky and things when it goes to close it up completely. Now I've just added another piece of Scor-tape onto this little flap here, and then I'm going to fold the front panel onto there, making sure it's all nice and straight. And this is how the box card is going to look when it's all completed. It looks super, super cute. I love this die. Now I've just skipped ahead and I'm going to do some Copic colouring. So I've just stamped out all three fairies, the house and a few of like the little berry branches and things onto another piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to Copic colour in all of these images. So I sort of went with it's not really a colour scheme, but I sort of wanted it to be a bit more like pastel-y, I guess. I didn't really want there to be too much like dark colours used, so I sort of just went for light purples, light pinks, light blues or teals, and then like when it came to colouring the house I just used like light browns and greys in the lighter shades, just because I wanted it to feel a bit more like light and I didn't want my colouring to be like too dark, I guess, is the best way to explain it. So basically all of the colours that I used are on the left side here, and I'm basically just colouring in dark to light. So since I had a lot of images to colour, I did try to do like all of the purples that I know I wanted purple, and then all of the pinks I knew I wanted pink, sort of all together just to save a little bit of time. And yeah, so also colouring dark to light makes it super fast and makes the time go by a lot faster, so that's really helpful. So I'm just going to go ahead and move through all of my colouring. So now for like the teals, I'm just going again dark to light. So I'm using BG49, BG23 and then BG11 as my lightest, and I'm just blending those all together, and I'm sort of making sure that I try and use like two of the colours that I'm using like predominantly on the fairies. So like I made sure that I used like the purple and the teal and then like the pink and the purple on the fairies, just to sort of make it coordinate on a little bit better. Now I'm colouring in the house, and so I wanted the house to be predominantly brown, but I sort of wanted all like the roofs and like the pathway and things to be grey. So I decided to use some light sea cool greys for that. And now for the fairies' hair, I'm just colouring in them all blonde because I felt like I had a lot of brown going on with the house, and I didn't really have much like yellow or anything going on. So I decided to use some light YRs and colour their hair blonde. So I'm using YR23, YR21, and then moving down to Y21, and that just creates a really gorgeous blonde hair colour. Now I'm going ahead and colouring in the house. So I decided to use my favourite browns, but sort of use like the lighter colours in my favourite brown set. So I'm using E55, E53, and then E51 as my lightest, and E51 is quite a light colour, so it matches in like really well with all of the light tones of colours that I used in like my teals and violets and pink colouring. So I just think this looks really nice together, and I'm super glad that I went with a light brown. I just think that it sort of flows a bit better with everything else. And then once I've gone ahead and coloured the house in, I'm going to move on to the fairy skin. So I'm just going to go ahead and colour that in with my favourite skin trio, which is E21, E00 and E000, and I'm just going to colour those in really quickly. I did forget to colour in their feet, so I will go back and do that later on. And then I'm also colouring in the little stems or whatever of the mushrooms as well with that same color. And then I just went ahead and skipped along and sort of colored in the rest of the images, since a lot of the colors that I used were repeated colors and it's just something that I forgot to color in like down the road. So I just went ahead and colored all of those off camera, and then I'm going to use all of the coordinating dies to cut all of these images out. And oh my gosh, coordinating dies for this was so much easier, and I love how it cuts out all of the different layers of images, like all those little snow pieces that you can adhere onto the house as well. Super fun and cute. So now I'm going to go ahead and adhere basically my scene together, and I'm adhering a lot of images into these layers. It's a very full shadow box, but I think it looks really cute behind that little glitter shaker window there. So I'm first adhering the house, and I actually do end up ripping that back out and adding the snow pieces on top, but that's fine, it lifted up fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere some berries onto the background, so I'm just adhering one behind the house and then one on the layer behind the house. I'm going to be using the purple layer for that, and I just sort of wanted those to come out from like sort of behind the house to sort of, I guess, look like trees, I guess. And then I just went ahead and added in the fairies and the mushrooms, and then for the fairy at the very back I just adhered her down using a strip of acetate just to make her a little bit higher in my background. Now I'm going to be using the Stitched Journaling Cards dies, and basically I'm just using it for this little banner here. Any banner would work. This was just honestly the perfect size for what sentiment I wanted to use, so that's why I voted to use this little die, but you could use anything you like. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out of a piece of craft cardstock, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment. So I'm using some black ink and then the We Wish You a Merry Christmas sentiment, and I'm just using this really small sentiment here mainly because I didn't feel like there was enough room on my card for like an additional sentiment piece on the front, because I didn't want to cover up all that glitter and I didn't want to cover up any of like the higher parts of the shadow box, just because it would have covered the image too much. So I decided to hang it from a banner. So what I'm doing is I'm using my little pokey tool here and a little mat behind it to protect the rest of my card, and I'm just poking through two little holes, and I'm going to thread some hemp cord between those holes and have them both facing out towards the front. And then I'm going to thread on my little banner sentiment that I just punched a hole out of the side of it with my crocodile tool. And so I'm just going to thread this on and then tie that hemp cord into a bow. And I just thought that this was a kind of a fun way to adhere a sentiment to this box, since I didn't want there not to be a sentiment, but I sort of wanted it more out of the way so it didn't like cover any of like the importance of the scene. So I felt like this way I was able to achieve sort of like the best sentiment that I could. I really would have loved to use like the punny fairy sentiment in there instead of merry, but it just didn't fit for this card. So I'm really glad that I sort of voted for the little banner sentiment here. And when you fold this card down too, you can just like flip in that little banner to make the shadow box fit fine in an envelope. There's not really much overhang or anything there that you have to worry about. So that finishes up my box card for today, this little shadow box card. It's super fun. I had a blast making this card. I really love the addition of like the little snow glitter shaker pocket in the front there. It's sort of fun. It sort of mutes down the scene behind, and it just looks really cute. So I hope you enjoyed my card today. All of the supplies that I use will be listed down below in the description and also at the blog post. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.